Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, resident under slash of under slash Collinwood for BitChute. And I'm here to discuss the legends of the Collins family, primarily the 1795 legends. And really, what I'm going to be looking at is how pretty much most of the legends are really surrounded by a lie. Really, the first legend I need to look at is the legend of Jeremiah and Josette. Now, if you're a Dark Shadows fan, you know this story. You know that Joshua Collins changed the history to make it look like Josette Dupre Collins, Josette Dupre coming from Martinique, aka France, came to America to marry his brother Jeremiah. We all know that's not true, that wasn't who she was intended to marry. She came to America to marry Barnabas, but she ended up marrying Jeremiah. Now, I'm not going to get into the reasons why, because that involves Angelique, but it was Angelique's fault. And Barnabas and Jeremiah have a duel with pistols, obviously, because I know a duel can be done with a sword. So I was just letting you guys know it's done by a pistol. And Barnabas wins, and he ends up killing Jeremiah. Now, here's what's interesting. Jeremiah's death, Joshua basically erases it. He basically doesn't write the duel in. He treats it as it doesn't happen. It's not even a part of the Collins family history. Jeremiah dies later on, the way he writes it in history. Now you get into Josette. Okay, after Jeremiah's death, after he's killed by Barnabas in the duel, Josette eventually does leap from Widow's Hill. Now they don't live the reason they give, obviously, is they give it's because she couldn't handle the group. The reason they give is basically none. She just jumps. They basically say Jeremiah and Josette weren't happy, and that's not exactly true either. It's not that they weren't happy. So the Collins family had no problem lying about their own history. All right, now you get to Barnabas. Barnabas went to England and died of a mysterious illness later on. That's not true at all. Barnabas actually became a vampire, and obviously later on was sealed up in the coffin. They did that. That lie is understandable, right? Oh my God, right? It's understandable, for the love of God. Um, it's just crazy, right? So you look at those legends and you go, man, the Collins family, when they write their own history, they're not necessarily writing it accurate, right? And for some sense, why would they? A lot of it seems miserable and tragic. And then you get to Naomi Collins. All right. What do you know about Naomi and Joshua? You know their marriage was arranged. Joshua even says it. All right. When I watched Joan Bennett play Naomi Collins, this was not Joan playing Elizabeth. She walks into the room, takes the hood off, and she's commanding the room almost. And I'm thinking to myself, this is 1795. 1795, a woman would not have been commanding the room. Surely a woman who's living in 1795, whether she's married to a rich man or not, knows this. Okay? because women in 1795 were treated a lot differently than what they are now. Women, I can't even say they were treated as second rate citizens, they were treated as less than that. A woman could not walk beside a man. A woman had to walk behind a man. A woman could not enter a room before a man. A woman's decisions were made by men. They weren't made by women. Men often arranged their marriage, told them what to do. it really makes you understand why women say what they say nowadays. We're not objects, because they were literally treated as that. Back in that time, they were treated like objects. They weren't treated like people, which is insane. So you think of Naomi Collins and you start examining her and her legend. There's two legends here. The first legend is Naomi Collins was given jewels by a pirate. Okay? The second legend is Naomi Collins was buried with those jewels. Now, the second legend sort of involves Barnabas, because Willie Loomis goes looking for the jewels. He doesn't find the jewels. He finds Barnabas' chain coffin, lets him out, as we all know, and the rest is history. And Barnabas then has the jewels that his mother was supposedly buried with. I think they were buried in the mausoleum, but I don't think they were necessarily buried with Naomi. So I think that legend is half true, because there were jewels, and half false. I don't think they were buried with Naomi. And I don't think Barnabas would open his mother's coffin just to get jewels. I think there was another way of getting them. I can't quote the revival here because that's a whole nother thing. So I'm going primarily off the original series. So to get to the first part, she was given jewels by a pirate. Okay. This woman enters the room. She almost is commanding the room. Even when she talks to her husband, she talks to him with sass at times, and she talks to him very direct. She's not afraid to speak up. That's not a woman of 1795. It really isn't. Women of 1795 were often talked down too, and let me tell you, if they talked up to their husbands, it was bam, and the husbands would just get away with it. Yet this woman is almost acting like she's a whole nother person. And I'm thinking to myself, let me get this straight. Naomi Collins was given jewels by a pirate, okay? She comes into this house, commanding the house almost. She's talking to her husband, and when her husband does speak up to her or talks down to her, she gives him the look like, almost like, if you weren't my husband and the father of my kids, I would kill you. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this woman, just something is off. Like, everything about Naomi, it's almost like she's another person. And she's not possessed. So I'm just looking at that and I'm going, okay, she was given jewels by a pirate, but it never names the pirate. You notice that? I'm going, wait a second. What if she was the pirate? What if she stole the jewels for her fucking self? Because think about what a pirate really is. We all know pirates mainly from the movies. People think about pirates from the movies. Oh, they're dashing, they're daring. I learned the history of pirates in 5th grade. They're not dashing, they're not daring. They're cutthroat sons of bitches and bastards. They would sooner stick a knife in a sword through your stomach than stick jewels around your neck. Okay? So, even if you were a woman, all right? Think of how women were treated back then. A woman captain, now there were female pirates. A woman a woman captain might have not got taken as seriously as the men. A lot of people might have dismissed it. I think Naomi was another person. That Naomi's real name honestly isn't Naomi, it's something else. And that's how I came up with Rosalina. And I'm not saying Naomi Collins is Rosalina in the 1966 series. No, in my story she is, but there is something off there. You can take whatever interpretation you like. You can say, well, maybe she's this. Sure. But the one thing I walk away from most, the woman drinks constantly as well. And she's not drinking for depression. She's more just drinking. Like, you might say, well, Roger does, but Roger has his own reasons. They don't drink for the same reasons. And the way she talks at times, she's not talking like a woman who is less than. She's not talking like a woman who is going to be talked down to by her own husband or by any male. And that wasn't the typical woman of the 1700s. Because again, those times were different. But I keep going, well, if you were a pirate captain, you would be used to talking to people that way. If you were a pirate, you would have no problem bellowing back. If you were another person, you would have no problem doing these things. I'm not saying her name's not really Naomi. I'm saying she took the name Naomi because it's a part of her name. People change their names all the time. Okay? Name changing is not uncommon. It really isn't, even in this day and age, how it's done in this day and age. Most actors change their names. So what if Naomi, in this case, let's say she was Rosalina Naomi Hanscom, and she ran away. What if Naomi was Captain Rose? Now, I'm not saying she was. I'm just leaving that with the question. But I want you to have your own interpretation here. Honestly, watch Naomi and take what you want out of it, not what I just gave the opinion of. Because to me, everybody sees things differently. I see characters differently than most. So how I view Naomi may not necessarily how you view her. But that's how I view Naomi. I view Naomi as a whole nother person. And her legend about how this mariner or pirate gave her jewels, I leave with this question, and it was the question I posed. Why should Naomi's legend be any exception when every other legend surrounding the Collins family is a perplexed lie? Naomi's legend may be partially a lie, but with every lie, there is a grain of truth. And I leave it up to you to determine what your version of that truth is. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. I don't. I really don't. When you look at Naomi literally is a riddle wrapped inside of enigma. Because this woman does not act like the woman she should. She doesn't. And I'm not saying that to knock Jen Bennett. I'm saying that here's a 17th century woman, and how 17th century women were treated. She's not taking that exception. Now, either A, she never ever wanted to take that exception and lived another life, or B, she just never swallowed that exception, and there's that too. So there's many variables here, but then you get into her legend. She was given jewels by a pirate. What pirate? What was his name? Or her name? However you want to slice that. And that's where I leave this video. I'd love to know, what is your interpretation of Naomi? And yes, I will tag everybody in this like I always do, because I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear you guys' thoughts. And that includes the people in the Dark Shadows rooms. I want to hear your thoughts on this. What is your interpretation of Naomi? Your interpretation. It doesn't have to be the same as mine, because we all see characters differently. I want to thank you guys always for joining me. I love coming on here and talking to you. You guys have a great night. Like, share, comment, and subscribe.